everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, the show where we talk about all the crazy stupid stuff that people do in marketing and how to not do that. But instead, shall we use the title of today's show, Get Better at Marketing, so that we can do more meaningful, trust building, all the good stuff that comes with marketing instead of crazy stupid stuff. I realized in our last episode that I very rarely define what crazy stupid marketing is at the beginning of the show. So I'm going to start doing that because I made up the title and I know what it means, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody knows what it means. So when we're talking about crazy stupid marketing, crazy is going to be based on the very common definition of doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. You might have heard it related to insanity before. We are using it here as our definition of crazy. And stupid, which my 7-year-old constantly tells me is a swear word, which I appreciate about him, based on you doing it only because someone else told you that you should. That's the only reason you know of why you are doing a specific marketing tactic. So on this show, we consider that stupid. We believe you should know your own reason for doing a thing, which also ties into our topic for today, which is this concept of, you might have noticed in the title of this episode that I used quotes around the word better at. Now, when I usually use air quotes, it's because I'm being sarcastic. But in this scenario, we are not being sarcastic. We are talking about a better at movement, which is why my friend Achim is here, because he is the founder of said better at movement. And we are specifically looking at it in the marketing conversation for today. So for all of you who are new to the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, welcome. We are super glad to have you here with us. For all of you who are not new to the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, welcome. We are glad to have you back. And for all of you, there's this nifty difty feature as part of a live stream that is known as the comments, which is your opportunity to get into the conversation. So while this looks like a conversation for two people here today, visually, this is actually an opportunity for all of us to get into the conversation about what it looks like for marketers and anybody who is doing marketing type behaviors. So that might also be some entrepreneurs in the audience, might be some CEOs in the audience, trying to learn more about marketing. This is an opportunity for all of us to get better at marketing because we participated in the conversation today. Christy is already taking up the charge. Thank you, Christy. Welcome to the conversation. Florida, that sounds warmer than where I am right now. It is cold and rainy. I guess it can be cold and rainy in Florida, but it's less likely to be cold and rainy in Florida. And our good friend Ben Baker joining us. Good to see you, my friend, in the chat as always. So if you are also joining us, please get in the chat and share any of your perspectives, questions, experiences, insights in the conversation around getting better at marketing. It allows all of us to share in a more robust conversation. With that, let's learn a little bit more about our phenomenal guest, my good friend Achim. I'm super excited to finally have him on the show. I've been pulling his legs to be on the show for a long time, and finally we are here together. So Achim, can you share a little bit about you? And maybe we want to just go right into, where did this concept of the better at movement come from?
Yeah, so I'm Achim Klor. Hi, everyone. Also known on LinkedIn as LinkedIn user for some reason.
Yes, StreamYard. StreamYard doesn't like to pick up your name.
Anyway, so I've spent the last 30 some odd years in marketing, so this is going to be a great chat. I'm looking forward to that for sure. The better at concept came to me was about mid 2021. I was having a chat with one of my wife's friends, actually. And she was having all kinds of problems, marital problems, relationship problems, but it was a story that I heard over and over and over and over again. And the long story short of that was I wrote a blog post because what I heard, what I kept hearing over the years was, very typical like human behavior of, I will do this when that person does that, right?
Dependencies.
Exactly, right, and conditions and stuff like that. So it inspired me, and I found a quote by the very famous Stoic Greek philosopher Epictetus. I hope I said that right. And that also spawned the whole notion of just because I have something that you don't doesn't make me better than you. And that just kind of like, oh, that was great. That kind of spawned the entire thing. So the whole notion of better at really is about being better at being a better person, better human being, understanding the soft skills that's required to create relationships, celebrate our differences, all those things that make us society, to make us a species that live on this planet. And then it reminded me of a very difficult time in my life where I lost my mom. And I just and right at basically the same week that I lost my mom, I was in this really horrible, toxic executive meeting, and I was kind of like sulking afterwards, and I was thinking, like, what am I doing here? And the VP of sales, super great guy, by the way, sent me the galaxy meme, the "you are here" galaxy meme, right? And I was like, okay, that's what I needed to hear. And it's kind of what I think we all need to hear around the globe right now. I think being better at our jobs, being better at our relationships, being better at the work that we do, how we show up, is really important, especially today with all the crazy geopolitical and economic stuff that's going on right now. We just need to be better at being better together. That's really what I'm down
to. Yeah. I mean, you say we just need to do this. But there's a lot of reasons why we don't.
Of course.
So maybe let's talk about some of those reasons first. And I think one of them ties very heavily into what you mentioned, this concept better than and better at, and how the two are different from each other. Because I mean, even from the time we're in school or we're competing for places on a sports team, or we're competing for jobs, there is this kind of underlying belief that we get sold that there is this hierarchy. And if you have an MBA, then you're better than someone who doesn't have one. If you have a certain color of skin, you're better than someone who has a different color than skin. And there's this like natural hierarchy that we are taught that is really completely out to lunch and created by humans, right? It's a human construct that was created by humans. That's not a biological thing that is provable by any means. But we just kind of, because we don't really question it, it becomes this like underlying behavior in almost all of the things that we do, whether that's keeping score in a relationship, and how that makes sense because we keep score in a baseball game. So keep score in a baseball game, keep score in a relationship. Like whoever has the more points is better than, they win the game. So do you want to share a little bit more about your experiences in maybe let's talk about how to bring better than, like that underlying better than narrative to the forefront so we can see it, and then we can decide, is this really a conversation we want to have from a better than perspective, or is it something we could look at from a better at instead?
Great question. And yes, the short answer is yes. You touched on something very, very critical here, and that is that the better than, the comparison, the competition, that's systemic, and that's systemic around the world. But look, I'm not against healthy competition at all. Actually, I think healthy competition is good. It's like the difference between a good, healthy ego as opposed to a toxic one, right? Those are good traits, and those are things we should celebrate. The difference between having this better than, systemic better than mindset as we grow up and as we go from say being a child to an adult, is we bring the baggage from the stuff that we've learned as kids, of the skate, like the school ground fights and the competitions and this, like those end up becoming part of our adult life as well. And the thing that I would say is that like we need to recognize when we're being better than for the wrong reasons. So like in a work environment that it's rampant, and I see it. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but when we look at marketing as an example, marketing teams tend to be a lot of infighting, competition of, my creative's better than your creative, and you get this very not very healthy competition happening even within marketing teams. That also spews out into other cross-functional teams. This is why sales and marketing have been so much at odds at each other over time, because one's trying to be better than the other. And trying to prove they're better than the other through like crazy stuff like now, like marketing attribution models and things like that. Like, I get credit for this and you don't. It doesn't breed a healthy.
Who cares?
Exactly. No one, nobody cares. I mean, if you ask your CEO and CFO if do they care if you got credit for the first or last touch, they said, how does this apply to revenue?
Right. Did this bring in any money or not?
Exactly. Right. So those are the whole better than notion is it's okay, but recognize it for what it is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with insecurities, and just understanding that sometimes it's better just to give the other person or the other team the benefit of doubt. Sometimes, kind of like how my wife and I have been. We've never fought, right? As an example, I've been married for 37 years, and we've never had a fight. It's only because we've just gave each other the benefit of the doubt. There was never any conditions to our relationship. We trust each other complicitly, and I kind of bring the same attitude when I'm in work situations. So of course, there's always going to be a different kind of boundary, but knowing, or we're just being able to recognize the better, how we're trying to be better than someone else isn't going to actually help us get to where we need to go. And especially now with technology and AI and all this kind of stuff, those soft skills are going to be more important than ever, right? So I think I just encourage people to really start thinking about their place on their teams, their place in society, their place in their families, and really start to, be aware of those healthy, healthy competition, and maybe not so healthy competition, and try to avoid that stuff.
Yeah. I like to say healthy competition is in sports.
Yes.
And if you would like healthy competition, go play sports. That's where it is. And I mean, even then, I coach 12 and 13-year-old girls, right? There's not healthy competition that's happening there as well, which is, like you said, it's systemic. So it's not like, I don't think any of us in our lifetime are going to get to a place where this isn't systemic. This is where the conversation has been for a very long time. In order for it to not be the conversation, that's why we have conversations like this, to perhaps start a new narrative. But I think you make a really great point too. I mean, sales and marketing, I think, happens to be a very good example of the dynamic between better than, right? Like, who's better than the other team in making money come in the door? And I remember when I worked in corporate, and I was in charge of marketing, and then I ended up in charge of sales for 6 months while we were interim looking for a new VP of sales. And my CEO at the time was like, no, sales and marketing can never be managed by the same person. And I was like, this is curious to me, because isn't it our job to sell stuff? Okay? Like, together we sell stuff, not one. If one guy sells stuff, then why do we need a marketing team? Like, we don't really. And so in your conversation, what this brought up for me was this idea of better together, right? So like, one of the definitions I love that you shared with me a while back in the Better At movement, shall we call it manifesto? There's a manifesto, folks. If you would like to see it, Achim would love to share with you. Is that Better At is about getting better yourself while making it better for those around you. And so there's an innate togetherness that exists in that definition, that I am not getting better at or better than as a silo. I have the opportunity to improve myself and improve others, improve this state of the economy, the state of politics, if we want to get really big with this, right? Like, the opportunity for that exists when we think about this from a Better At point of view. But now that I brought up politics, it feels like another area where like better than is very common. And which party is better? This party is better than this party. And then we're like back in this narrative. And I think, again, like, we're supposed to be talking about marketing here today, but this is why these types of things become so prevalent in a workplace, because they are everywhere. Right? That school is better than the other school, and I want to get my kid into the school that's better. And like, pretty soon, pretty much everything we're talking about is better than. So we can't be surprised when that follows us into the workplace. But the more that we see it, like from like self-awareness, right? The more things that we see, the more things that we can change, the more things that we can see in our experience around us, and even be able to, I'm not a big fan of like two silos of things, but in this scenario, if we're saying like, oh, does that behavior go into a better than silo, or does it go into a better silo? And we can just start to see like, oh, like 90% of the things that I do are just like fed by better than. Okay, well, what if it wasn't? What if it was something a little bit different? And one of the things that Achim and I were talking about before we came on live today was this concept of like a marketer choosing a specific tactic and then getting very into the like technical details of that tactic without thinking too much about the, well, let's say the potential better atness that exists there. I'm going to learn about Facebook ads so that my Facebook ads are better than my competitors' Facebook ads, and then like all of this stuff. And we get very into the technical details of that. But we could do the same behavior or look at the same tactics from the lens of better at and create different opportunities. So, Achim, do you want to share just some ideas and thoughts in that arena?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, and this is this jumping to the tactic thing, and sometimes that's all the exercise we get, and and I've done this. Like I'm not pointing fingers.
I've also done it, by the way.
Yeah, like I've done it. Like I think we all do it because it's human nature to compare ourselves. It's the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing. It's one of the reasons, again, diverting just a little bit, but it's one of the reasons why so many of us are in debt, because credit is all about, being better at something. Okay, I got to get that car because I'm going to be better at my neighbor who's got the other car. So you just keep getting further and further behind because you're trying to compete or compare yourself to somebody else. That's the other really innate negative when it comes to being better than someone. So getting back to what you're saying about marketing tactics as an example, that's a classic example of doing it, say having the right intentions, but doing it with poor execution. So a good example right now, a very relevant example, I'd say, is AI prompting. A lot of us will see a prompt and we'll grab it and we'll just start doing it. And without really thinking about, okay, so if I do this prompt, should I consider other prompts or subsequent prompts? Or do I need to pre-prompt it? And how is this going to impact the output? And how can I fact check this so it's accurate and credible, rather than just putting the prompt in, letting AI do its thing and going, oh, great, copy paste, right? And you see that now with a lot of online media that it doesn't take you very long, two sentences in, and you'll know it's written by ChatGPT, right? So people aren't thinking, they're just doing, and that's not helping anybody, especially marketing. So that's an example of that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because I had this experience recently where, I'm very authentic in my content creation. Even if I think it's really great when I'm on people's podcasts and they give me social media things that I can just share. And I'm just but I wouldn't say that. So I will say what I would say and I will share it, but I will not use what someone else created for me, including AI, right? So I might get something out of AI. And I'm oh, this is that's a good point. I like to focus on that, but this is how I would say that. And I go and I do my thing. But it was really interesting because I was collaborating in an event and I know I'm going to just say what I would say. And I'm assuming that my collaborator will also do that. So the template I send was like to some degree customized, but a lot of it came out of ChatGPT. Because again, like I don't know how you're going to share this, so I don't know how much time I want to put into customizing it for you. If you're going to spend time customizing for you, let's have a basic template. But then it was really interesting because what I had in my basic template, which neither of us actually ended up sharing publicly, but I received an email from a contact of mine who's also doing a series of events that's of a similar nature. And I was like, oh, ChatGPT wrote this because it wrote the same thing for me. Right? And I'm like, now I'm really glad that neither of us like shared it in its like pure form because like this is what's happening. And this, I mean, you guys, I'm a good networker, but like my community is not that big, right? Of people who are hosting very specific types of events, right? Like this is a pretty small group of people. And if we're all using Chat GPT with the same prompt, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to tell us the same stuff. It's going to learn because it learns, you guys. It's learning that that's the type of question that people are asking. And this is the type of output they like to see. So I'm going to give more people that output because this is what people like. Now more people have that. And so you touched on something really important when you introduced the concept of the prompt and what do I do with, what else do I do with that? But I think this ties into, I actually wrote a post yesterday. It was about AI comments. Yeah. And I was like, but what do you actually think about this? Right. So like, and not just what do I think about the output, but what do I think about the prompt? Like, do I think that that prompt is good? Is there something based on my level of experience and knowledge that I would tweak in that prompt? There's so many people now, and this is how I started my article actually. Like, humans love the easy button, right? Someone else has just created a prompt and they're like, I created the prompt. It's going to save your life and you're never going to have to create any content again. You just have to put these 365 prompts into ChatGPT to give you daily content for the rest of your life, right? Like, okay, if you didn't stop at that point to think any more about it, then that puts you straight into crazy, stupid marketing zone. Like, why are you doing that? Why? If you don't have a good reason why you are doing that, that falls under the category of stupid marketing. Why are you doing it? Just because ChatGPT said you should? For real? Is that the point we're at here in humanity? Because then we have a much more serious conversation to have about better apps. Because I also think, let's talk about this. Where does the carrot, I mean, like, I'll just state my position on this, is that I feel like the caring has to come from inside a person to say like, okay, I'm not here just to have a social media post. I'm not here just to have a fancier car than my neighbor. What do I want to achieve as a human? Like, what does that look like? What are my dreams? My most recent dreams, random, is that we get chickens because the cost of eggs went up. And I'm like, we could just get chickens and then we could have all the eggs we want and not have to pay for eggs. And then like Nicholas could kind of have a pet and like all of these pros of having chickens. And I've been terrified of birds for most of my life. So it's like a very big transformation for me. But like, that comes from me, right? Being like, this is what I think would be amazing for life, for a career, right? Like, and that will change throughout your life too. Your state of life and the things that are important to you and all those things change as well. But even to take it back to a marketing point of view, like, okay, yeah, I'm a marketing coordinator of many marketing coordinators. What do I want to do here? What's our business trying to do here? What's the impact we're trying to make? What impact do I want to make? Do I want to just be that person who feeds prompts into ChatGPT and I can put that on my resume and be like, I'm really good at feeding prompts into ChatGPT. Okay, good luck being a marketing manager one day. But like, I feel like that has to come from inside. That's not one of those things that are just, Tracy and Achim can sit here and tell you, you should want to be better at instead of better than, right? That's not a thing, right? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, like, internal drive Achim.
Great question. And as you're speaking, the thing that comes to my mind are two things actually. One is, and look, first and foremost, let's be super clear. This better at thing isn't anything innovative. It's just a frame of mind, really. I'm not inventing.
I would like to say it is an innovative frame of mind. It's just not new.
Right.
Like the ancient Greeks were talking about it. We just haven't made it part of our society yet.
Well, we probably have over time, but we tend, as a human culture, our species, we tend to always gravitate to what you just said earlier about the easy button and really just looking out for ourselves and not for our neighbor. And so two things come to my mind. One is we have to be the change that we want to see in the world and in the world around us. Like first and foremost, if we're having relationship troubles, even with our own friends and family, we have to be the change that we want to see. What I learned early in my career was when I was having these, crazy, stupid fights with cross-functional teams, a lot of it had to do with me, right? So when I stopped trying to be right and just focused on, bridging the gap, so to speak, because the other thing that comes to my mind is you can be so right that you're wrong, right? So, and then do you want to be right or do you want to be effective, right? And in your personal life, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy, right? And so you just got to pick your battles, right? And so some hard lessons early in my career gave me this insight of I'm going to stop trying to be better than that other person or that other team and see how we can be better at this together, right? So if sales and marketing come together and are better at marketing and sales, well, guess what? Marketing, because it's a non-linear multiplier, will end up creating 8 times more effectiveness and 5 times more efficiency for sales teams. But when we don't work together, well, 8 times effectiveness times 0 is still 0, right? So it doesn't matter how effective you are or whatever, but if the multiplier is 0 because one team is not working with the other team, you're basically at 0. So if sales is really, really good at what they do and marketing is really, really good at what they do, but they don't work together to create that multiplier, they end up basically doing nothing for a lot of wasted money, right? So that kind of clicked for me a long time ago. So after that, my life changed, my career changed, because every relationship I've ever had with the CS department, with the product department, with the sales department, even with the executive team, leadership team, has always been much more positive, because I don't take this view. I don't go into the meeting or go into the relationship thinking, well, what can I get out of this? Right. For me, no, I'm not. What can I contribute so that we can be better at this together? Right. Because every company, every business is in the same boat. Think about it. We all need to row in the same direction. But if we're all just doing our own thing, we're going to hit the iceberg. And guess what? We don't know. We all know how that story ends, right? So that's how I view it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I'll be honest, because I find it confusing, because I feel like, and I don't know if there was a specific experience in my early childhood that just like pushed me in this direction, but I've always thought in the category of we, right? Maybe it's the very socialist Canadian, but like there's one, how much can we achieve as one person, right? Nobody really achieves anything huge without a team of people. Even if you're like, I always think this about like tennis players, right? Because a singles tennis player might look like they're out there on the court by themselves, but they have like whole teams of people, coaches, physiotherapists, right? Like other tennis players that they train with, right? Like all of these things happen as a team. And so for me, I've always thought like what's best for me is what's best for the team, right? Like we win together. I don't win if you lose. That is very confusing to me and always has been. But so it was really confusing to me. I will say like the biggest experience I had of this was coming out of university, and I went to business school, and then everybody's applying for the same small percentage of jobs at management consulting companies, because this is what business school tells you is like the dream career everybody wants to have. And there's only a few of them. And then you get very competitive with people. And I'm like, this is weird because like I was in that group project with you and we worked like really well together as a group and we did this together. Now all of a sudden you're trying to like show that you're better than me. And like I don't it's just not very Tracy. Like I was never very good at participating in that. But I will say that I found it like two things. I found it unusual that people had that perception, but also the teams I was a part of were much more productive than other corporate teams. And so then I was still curious and being like, well, can't you see what's happening? Like, this is so productive. Why would you want to do that? I spend a lot of my time in curiosity about why people stay stuck in these types of things. But this is something that as individuals we can choose to participate in or choose not to participate in. And if it feels more authentic, more like you to say like, well, I'm curious. I remember having a conversation with a sales guy once. And he was like, oh, but you guys, all you do in marketing is just like send out emails. And like, we don't really care about your emails. And I'm like, well, what if our emails actually helped you close a client? Would you care about our emails then? And he was like, well, I just don't think emails can do that. And I was like, well, what if we were spending our time doing something that could help you do that instead of emails? And he was like, oh, I'm like, yeah, but only if we talk about it, right? Otherwise, I'm over here sending emails and you're over there being like, marketing's emails are useless. And like, this is not helping anybody. But like one person gets to open the door to that curiosity and be like, what? So this is status quo. None of us really like status quo. It's not operating as an effective marketing machine. Would you like it to operate as an effective marketing machine? Because I would like it to operate as an effective marketing machine. Okay, it's not doing that today. How might it? How might it do that? And then this is the thing I feel like anyway, and you can elaborate on this, that puts us into that category of better at. Right now, we are getting better at something. I'm over here getting more opens on my emails that you think are useless. And then I'm getting bonus because I get bonused on my email open rate. Different. We're going to have a conversation about KPIs in a few weeks there, people. So make sure you come back for that. But like, there's the door, right? And there's a lot of people. I will also say this. I think a lot of people want to walk through the door, but they're maybe not sure how to open the door themselves. But if someone opens the door for them into that conversation, they want to participate. They want to make it work. In my experience anyway, I'm sure there's a small percentage of people out there who are just the narcissist megalomaniacs of the earth that just really are out for it themselves. But like, I don't think that 99% of people are like that. I think most people want to do good stuff, want to achieve things. So yeah, anyway, there's my rant.
You bring up a couple of really good points. And one is, we all really want the same things. I mean, one of the best things I ever heard was from a very famous Canadian astronaut, Chris Hadfield. For those of you who don't know, he spent multiple trips up to the ISS. He was the guy who played David Bowie's Space Oddity on his acoustic guitar up in the ISS. He said one thing. He was here in Vancouver, and he did a show at the Orpheum here. And one of the things that he said here, what I thought it was awesome was, everybody struggles. Doesn't matter where you go in the world, everybody struggles, and everyone is afraid of something, right? So we all have this fear of something, and every one of us struggles. Doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States or if you're you're working 2 or 3 jobs. Everybody struggles in some way, and of course you can debate what that struggle is depending on how high you go. But the point is, humanity in general struggles. And if you travel, and another great quote from Mark Twain is, travel is the enemy of prejudice. If you travel, you'll notice that every culture that you end up bumping into around the world, and I've done my share of travel to say this is absolutely true, we are more alike than we're not. Mm-hmm. We might wear different clothes, we might have different jobs, we might pray to a different God, we might eat different food or whatever. loved somebody else, or does it that, but underneath it all, like we all have the same wants, needs, desires, and we all have the same similar struggles, I should say. So you've just having that mindset when you meet somebody who you think you're going to compete with, and knowing that that person is struggling just as much as you are and is afraid of something just like you are, already the door starts to open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to walk through the door, and I love this analogy, by the way, if you want to walk through the door, just start asking better questions, right?
Get better at asking questions.
There's another better at, and that's, again, being better at asking questions, better questions, thoughtful questions, critical thinking questions. That's something you don't learn in school. That's not part of a curriculum. That's something you learn through life. And this is one of the reasons why I think better at has so many different legs, which is a good thing, because it's kind of like, it just gets back to what I said before about travel. Like it meets all kinds of needs for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So walking through the door means I have to take it on myself to ask better questions, more beautiful questions. Great book, by the way. And Warren Berger, if nobody knows, Warren Berger wrote a book called A More Beautiful Question. Get it? It's awesome. And that will get you through the door, because what will end up happening is when you ask those more beautiful questions, you are going to be seen as a different energy in the room, and somebody who doesn't come with, armor or, defense or insecurity. It's somebody who, the walls just start to come down, right? And I've noticed it like I said before, I've noticed it when I've done it with sales teams. There's this expectation the marketing guy going to come in and start a fight, right? Or vice versa, right? But when you don't participate in that thinking, that immediately that conversation changes.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I love to approach things with curiosity. I think that is an awesome door. And it reminds me of this experience I had when I was in corporate with a director of development. And I had been in the organization for a while, and he came in new, and it seemed like we just disagreed on everything. And luckily, I was taking the Dale Carnegie course at the time, and there was a module about asking questions. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go into my next conversation with him and just be curious. Right? I'm not trying to prove that this is how we do it here. I'm not trying to prove that I'm right. I'm just going to be curious about his perspective, what he thinks, why he thinks it. And we had this conversation, and no joke, folks, would not lie about this. Within one conversation, our entire relationship changed. That focus on asking questions, one, showed me things about him that then I appreciated. So now it's easier for me to continue to invest in that relationship because I have created an appreciation of that person. Two, I showed sincere interest in him. So now he has a reason to invest back in me. And we actually became a pretty dynamic duo, which to have a development, a director of ops and a marketing VP, on the same page for a software company, not a lot of companies have it. And it was a big competitive advantage for us. So we could do a lot better job having conversations about the product and what the product does and how we tell that story. And they could create new improvement plans based on that. It was so effective because of one conversation where I decided, we didn't both decide, I decided to be more curious. And it could have equally backfired, but it's one conversation. What's the risk? The risk is low. And then you start to build on that. So now I just bring my natural curiosity with me everywhere I go, and I use it with my son, and I use it with my husband, and I use it with my parents, and I use it with my clients, and I use it at networking events, and I use it everywhere because now I have a practiced skill of that. But this comes back to that choice to just say okay, I'm feeling like this. I mean, let's talk about it from a relationship point of view, because work relationships are relationships too. You can categorize them differently if you want, but a relationship is a relationship. Either I'm building a relationship with you And every time we have a conversation that grows tighter, more trustworthy, stronger, better, whatever word you want to use, or every time I have a conversation with you, we hate each other a little bit more. Right? There's this kind of, or I mean, you could have complete apathy too, but then I mean, what's the point of having a conversation? So we have those three options. Again, I think most people would say, like, yeah, I would like to spend my time in a meaningful way building relationships with people. Okay, are you happy with the way that this relationship is building? Yay or nay? If the answer is nay, like, hey, and we just talked about one better at thing here today, which is questions, right? Like, what if you tried that one better at? What if I asked? And I would actually say I have a little bit of a problem with the concept of better questions, because I feel like then people are like, Chat GPT, what questions should I ask the blah blah blah, and then Chat GPT questions. That's not better questions. That's AI questions. It's not better questions. It's just AI's questions. So as long as we label it the appropriate way. What are your questions? What do you wonder? What are you curious about? What like piques your interest? And if you find, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people about this, just being like, I don't find people interesting. Okay, well, maybe there's a different layer of depth we could go to here. People just want to talk about the weather. You guys, people do not just want to talk about the weather. If people only wanted to talk about the weather, I would not have so many deep coffee chat conversations as I do, right? And sometimes I invite that, and people don't accept my invitation, and that's fine. But like, what do you want to invite them to do? You want to invite them to talk about fantasy sports? That's fine. Don't invite me to talk about fantasy sports. People have nothing to say about it. But like, that's fine. Talk about that. Are you curious about that? Go have a conversation about that. That's fine. Like, one of the things that got us like actually feeling really situated in our new neighborhood after we moved is that my husband joined my neighbor's fantasy hockey team or pool, not team. He's not a player. Pool. And then destroyed them. But when there's some stuff that came up with that. But the point is, like, he was participating in a thing that was part of the community. That's something he cares about. And like, no, I'm not going to go. I know nothing about fantasy sports. I'm going to lose a bunch of money. I'm just not going to do that. But I will go and have conversations about being better at. Right. So if you're curious about that, let's even work this back, right? Because I also think there's some, maybe you're in a work scenario where it feels maybe not quite safe to bring that curiosity into a conversation. And the more you practice, the more confidence you have, and then it feels easier to bring that skill into places where it might feel a little bit more risky to do that. And so participate in conversations like this. Reach out to me, reach out to Achim, reach out to each other in the chat, right? Have a conversation with people who are having that conversation. Right? This is one of the great things about digital networking. As far as I'm concerned, the best thing about digital networking is you can see what conversations people are participating in before you have to participate in a conversation with them. So go check it out. You saw someone comment on something and they were like, I've had actually people, I don't know if Scott Bodie is watching this show. I've never even met him yet, but like, we commented on the same stuff with like within the same framework so many times. I was just like, we should know each other. Like, we clearly have stuff in common. Let's talk about it. And we haven't even had a conversation yet, which is fine. But like, you have that opportunity to see that about people, which you don't have necessarily in a remote work environment or walking into a networking room that you've never been in before. And so, like, how can you use your powers of observation to figure out what are people kind of about? And maybe I'll go hang out with the people that are about the same stuff that I'm about. And then we can talk about, I mean, honestly, I think this is like the best, if you're in the job market as well, I think this is the greatest opportunity for people to like know you and see you and then be like, oh, this person is looking for a customer experience role. Like, I know this person and they're hiring that. And like, you would be great for that, right? This is this is an opportunity for people to be seen, because we are brave enough to show other people what we're naturally curious about. And I know that's not what we're programmed to do. So and I say this all the time on the show, but like, there's never the right time. If you're waiting there and being like, I'm just going to wait for the like perfect right scenario where it's going to feel right for me to ask this question, it's probably not just going to manifest for you. This is about you jumping in and being like, I choose to do this. I'm going on this journey. I'm going to make this choice and I'm going to say it and I'm going to see what happens. And it's going to be welcome in some places and it's going to be not welcome in some places. And it helps you determine what are your places. But it also allows you, if we roll this back out to the concept of if I get better at something, then we get better at something. This is now saying like, I opened the door to a room where people can be curious. And if I would like to put that on my headstone when I die, then someone else got access to that idea because I did that. And if you can give yourself a big old stamp of approval or a pat on the back to say like, good job, self. Even if that didn't work in that space, like someone else saw that it's possible and maybe they take it to another space, or they do it at home. I don't know. There's like so many opportunities for us to create space through our gifts for other people. And it just makes me sad that I don't think that is the mindset we bring to work with us every day when we go to work as marketers. Any last thoughts you want to have in that arena, Achim?
I think you nailed it with the curiosity piece for sure, and it's one thing that I've heard you say so many times around first of all, foremost, like just be curious, even about yourself. Like just just be you. You always say just be you, yeah. Which is really, really important. I think the one thing, if anybody that's in marketing is listening right now, is bring curiosity to the table for sure, but have the courage to do it, because courage is just as important as curiosity. The courage to change, the courage to ask good questions, the courage to be curious, that you can go through the door.
Courage to change your mind.
Absolutely, because you can change your mind. Absolutely, and also know that you're not. Look, your tribe is not going to be everybody on this planet. Your tribe isn't going to be 8 billion people. Your tribe is just going to be your tribe, and that's okay. Like you're not going to resonate with everyone. Not everyone likes who I am. That's fine with me. Everyone's different, and I appreciate that.
That's okay. I do, which is why you're on the show.
Yeah, but I will say this. I'm going to leave this last thing because I think courage is a real big one, because it was one of the bigger mountains for me to climb through my career. Having the courage to speak up, having the courage to be honest, even with executive teams, obviously, and also having to pick your battles, of course, because you don't want to just go into I'm right and you're wrong, right? Because that's getting better than again. But Amelia Earhart has a phenomenal quote that I've remembered for the last 30 some odd years. That courage is the price that life extracts for granting peace. The soul that knows it not knows no release from little things. If you don't embrace courage, you will never get past the little things in life. There you go. And that's a big one for marketers, especially as they go forward, who are especially afraid that AI is going to take their jobs. It's not going to take your job if you have the courage to embrace it.
Well, and I think this thing too, I think this is specifically true in marketing. It might be true in other industries too, but I've seen it a lot in marketing where we get very caught up in doing what other people have done. Right? Yeah. Like, well, that worked for Apple and I'm a tech company and I want to be as successful as Apple. So I'm going to do exactly what Apple did. Except the reason that worked for Apple is because Apple is Apple and had specific people and was in market at a specific time and has like a specific brand and all of these things that you don't have. You don't have any of those things. Yeah. And so I think we have kind of gotten into this like, Achim and I use the word complacency a lot in the conversations that we have. Complacency in that, like, well, I'll just do what other people are doing and that's safe. But like nobody built $1 billion brand off of doing what was safe. And if we're going to go into our careers as marketers to be like, no, I want to be in safe, then we should also have enough courage to say, I will never be participating in the world's biggest brands or building the world's biggest brands. I may be able to come in as an afterthought to do maintenance on something, but I will be creating this. And if you, I mean, like I identify as this, right? Like I'm a creator. I like to create new stuff. I get so bored by just doing maintenance. I could never be an accountant because like the fact they just do the same thing over. I love accountants, by the way, because thank you for doing that so I don't have to do it. I'm not good at it. But like when I don't want to do that. Right? Like I want to create new cool stuff, right? And I don't create new cool stuff if I'm not courageous enough to try and courageous enough to fail, because some of those things are just not going to work. And we learn and we grow. And I'm having lots of fun teaching my 7-year-old this right now because he's got like his like default personality as Mr. Perfect. And I'm like, ooh, I was like that too. It took me like 40 years to learn my way out of it. So maybe I can make it like only 20 years for him. But like, this is not a thing, right? No way you're going to get through your life without spilling soy sauce on your white shirt. Even though you think you've learned that you don't wear white to the Chinese food restaurant, that all of a sudden you end up at a Chinese food restaurant and you get soy sauce on your shirt. It's like, this is not life or death scenario. Okay. And in marketing too, this is not a life or death scenario. Most things that we do, the company is not going to go out of business tomorrow because we didn't deliver a sale today. And that's lucky for us, right? That's a gift we get as marketers. So how are we going to use that gift in a meaningful way to contribute back to our entire teams by getting better at what we uniquely can get better at?
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to you, Tracy, because without you and Sandy and Jody and Alex and Jana and Lori, who are now the 7 people.
We're the better at crew.
Yeah, we're the better at. What did Jody call us? The better at movement. The BAMers. Yeah, BAM. Right.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to you guys because this thing can't happen by like just it's not a one person thing. Again, it's like there's no one like self-made success here. This is going to require a whole bunch of different views, different worldviews of what better at means in different applications, right? So big shout out to you guys because you inspire me every day.
We inspire each other every day. And it's funny because coming into this, I was like, we need to have a 45-minute conversation because I have a client meeting after this and we are now 53
we're already
minutes.
past.
I knew that was going to happen. This is why I said 45 and then I create the 15-minute window. But like, also, we've got Christy and Ben and Mitch in the comments. If you guys are curious about the Better At movement and whether or not you could participate in a specific way, reach out to me, reach out to Achim, like have a conversation. This isn't something that is owned. This is open source narrative for anybody to be better at relationships, better at marketing, better at accounting, better at cell phone technicianing. I don't know. I like to come up with random things. I have a coaster, better at coaster making. I don't know. I appreciate a good coaster. And Ben shares better at is not a destination. It's process.
There you go.
Also
well said, Ben. Well said.
Yeah,
and coming from a communications guy, that is spot on.
That's true. If you're looking for a communication guy, you could probably reach out to Ben. He's very good at taking a 54-minute conversation and making it succinct enough to get into one sentence. So if you're looking to do that, you should talk to him. But thank you so much for all of your wonderful musings on the show today. If people are interested in connecting with you, where is the best place for them to do that?
The best place is LinkedIn. I've got a very unique name, so it's pretty good chance you're going to find me.
And if for whatever reason you can't, you can go to the post on LinkedIn for this event and its name is linked. So you can just click on it. It's very simple. Or you can reach out to me if we are connected and I can connect you. You can get connected.
Or if you want to go to Klor Consulting, KLOR consulting.com, you can find me there too.
Find them there too. People are everywhere.
And I would say if anybody's watching this on demand later, by all means, you're like, again, like Tracy said, this is an open source thing. There's no boundaries, there's no gates. So feel free to ask.
Yes, reach out. This is the goal here is just like we said, if one of us can go to a meeting and bring better at, what if 10 of us can go to a meeting and bring better, 10 different meetings and bring better at? How does that start to ripple out to the wider community? And the more of us that are participating, the more opportunity we have for us all to be better at whatever it is we want to be better at. And with that, my friends, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back with you same time, same day next week. I don't know what we're talking about, but you can find out next week. I never know that in advance. It's too much information. But until then, thank you so much for joining us and permission to do you. Bye, folks.